So in the wake of Britain decriminalising abortion up until the point of birth, I started thinking about this. Why the concept of abortion is just so important to young women. As you can see here from this survey that was done in 2024, for women aged 18 to 29, 39% of them said abortion was the most important issue that they faced. Wow, that's pretty shocking. Way ahead of inflation, way ahead of threats to democracy, immigration and border security, Israel and Hamas war, the Ukraine war, gun policy. No. The right to kill my unborn children tops all of these. Now, in total women voters, abortion is third, right? So actually for most women, inflation and threats to democracy, these are more important than abortion, but that's still 13%. And as you can see, when you go to the young women, well, I think it's pretty evident. And so I thought what we'd do is take to Twitter and ask, well, why do you guys think that abortion is the most important? Because you can see I'm replying to Carla Denyer here. I think she's the co-leader of the Green Party, who for some reason decides to proudly announce that she's murdered one of her babies. She says, I had an abortion in my 20s. I know how important it is that women have control over our own bodies and don't face criminalization for our choices. You murdered a baby. But you murdered a baby. You had irresponsible, unprotected sex, and you murdered a baby. So, like, the fact that you admit this in public is remarkable to me. It's a very horrible thing to admit. But she says, so glad to be one of the 379 MPs who voted to decriminalise abortion, as in make abortion legal until the point of birth. It's like, that is wild, man. So literally the day before you give birth, you can murder your unborn baby. Would have been completely fine, and nothing will happen to you. They just have the right of murder in this country. And it's like, okay, so I mean, that's just basically infanticide, right? But anyway, so I thought we'd go through some of the quote tweets, just because some are quite incredible. As Big Monkey here says, women have one power, the ability to make human life. It's logical that they want to have power over it. Well, the thing is, they do have power over it. They're the ones who get to decide if they're going to have sex with that guy or not. And I think the issue is, Carla and other young women, is that they want to just be frivolous with who they have sex with, but they don't want to bear the consequences of having sex with them. So, well, if the law is going to allow them to do that, and we give them the ability to simply murder the children who are the product of these sexual liaisons, well, then I can see that we have a bit of an issue, don't we? It seems that quite a lot of young women in America and here are a bit loose with their morals, right? Just saying that's what that is. So obviously he carries on and says that, in other words, they give up the power while believing it gives them more power. It's like, well, they do get power in a very narrow perspective of their life. And apparently that's very important to almost half of women in America, half of all young women. The English Way says the cult of the priestess always ends in child sacrifice. Well, this is another point, isn't it? It's a particularly feminine way of looking at the world, right? If your desires are more important than the consequences of your desires and the effects that they have on other people, then yeah, I guess it does end in child sacrifice. This is why the Uranic principle is more important. This is why the Sky Father is the solar principle is you don't do this for yourself, you do this for others. And you can see how we've got the solar family. If you're not doing these things for yourself, then it doesn't end in child sacrifice. And actually, children are the thing you have to do things for and to produce a healthy, wholesome life. Or you can be a kind of perennial floozy and make killing the children you produce the top issue that you have, right? Gerbil here says they're told they never have a right. They're never told they have a right to wait until marriage to have sex. Majority of parents don't teach marriage traditions to their own children anymore. To add more insult to injury, they were also taught that being the breadwinners for their own children, something that isn't even possible to do now with neglect. Yeah, so this is another thing where it's men and women were taught the same thing. Men obviously want sex with women biologically as a more powerful immediate drive. Women obviously want sex with men, but the women tended historically to be more discerning about this, and feminism is trying to make them into essentially human bonobos, where just sex is just something that everyone does, Brave New World style, right? And that requires the liberation of women from the consequences of sex. And so why would they need to be taught to wait until marriage to have sex? Why would they need to be taught to reserve themselves for a partner? What point is marriage traditions in the ultimately liberal society in which women can murder their children right up until the point of birth? Like, what's the point of a marriage tradition? Why would you need to get married if you're a man or a woman, right? So Orc Brand says, women wanting bodily autonomy confuses men, and they wonder why women avoid their politics like the plague. Well, they don't. I can't help but notice that most women in America vote for Trump, actually. Only 40% of women are inveterate baby murderers. Only 40% of women are communists by this standard. Actually, most women don't avoid my politics like the plague. And to be honest with you, you have bodily autonomy. No one can force you to have sex with someone. No one's going to force you to be impregnated against your will. You choose to be impregnated. This is very similar to me saying, I don't consent to getting fat. I just consent to eating the cake. Like, why should I get fat because I've eaten a cake? I deserve my human rights. My bodily autonomy is being violated because I ate a cake and got fat as a consequence. It's like, well, this is the consequence of eating lots of cake. The consequence of having unprotected sex is that you get pregnant. Your bodily autonomy was in no way violated if the consequence is something you knew the risk when you took it, and you took the risk anyway. You used your bodily autonomy to get pregnant. Well, now that's your responsibility. I used my bodily autonomy to eat that cake, and I got fat, and I have to take responsibility for that. It's no different. And sorry if you don't like the consequence. I don't like the consequence. You know, I wish cake didn't make me fat as well. And yet here we are. The difference is I'm not carrying a giant moral burden for murder. I'm just a bit fatter than I would want to be. This is amazing. So there are a bunch of replies on this. Very angry people, right? Just me asking this question made these people just furious. Absolutely furious, right? They should revolve around the right to murder dipshits like you instead. The world would be better off. Well, I mean, I suppose it's a matter of perspective, isn't it? I mean, for the sluts who want to just have unlimited, unprotected sex, yeah, sure, the world's going to be better off for them. For the babies that they're murdering, though, I can't help but feel more people like me and fewer people like them would actually be more helpful. But also, I mean, you know, let's be honest. Are they going to do it? I don't think that's going to happen, right? So women don't tend to be as violent as men, actually, Alan. But I don't know. I do wonder if this chap is one of those sort of, what is Gadsad would call them? Sneaky fuckers. Like, if I'm excessively progressive, then maybe one of them one day will take pity on me and allow me to sleep with them. They won't, Alan, by the way, just FYI. Anyway, Publius here. Murdering your own children is the highest expression of female hypergamy. Maybe. I think it's less to do with that and more to do with these young women wanting to get out of the life choices they've made. I think it's more about evading consequences. It's their right not to have children if they don't want to, regardless if they were safe or not during sex. Okay, me, my God. Like, like this, the dead mother comes out. And she's just like, look, I deserve to have as much unprotected sex as I want, and I have a right not to have children. It's like, well, you don't. You have a right not to get pregnant, as in by not having sex, but once you have created a child, that child has rights too. And this is the problem with just unlimited rights claims, where they start conflicting. And at the moment, the den mothers are definitely winning, but the thing is, young men are increasingly becoming opposed to abortion in this country and in the United States. This ain't going to last forever, ladies, right? Eventually, when the boomers have passed on and the world is full of right-wing young men who are just like, no, I'm not actually up for you murdering children up until the point of birth. I think that's horrible, actually. I think just abortion itself is a pretty gross thing. But like if we kept it like 13 weeks or something, okay, maybe we could compromise. But you don't seem to understand when you should quit, right? And now you've taken the whole thing to monstrous levels and absolutely disgusting proportions. And then to come out and flatly say things like this, well, it's their right not to have children if they don't want to, regardless of whether they get pregnant. It's like, no, your choice to not have children is contingent on you not getting impregnated. If you got impregnated, like with me and the cake, well, you made your bed, and now you're just going to have to live with it, right? Like I said, more of these, because killing y'all is more frowned upon. It's like, okay, interesting. Again, like, these seem like very happy people, don't they? 90% of the time, these women are having sex with people they don't want kids with. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Maybe they shouldn't be doing that. Maybe actually this is, something we need to think about as a society. Do we want to be in the kind of society where women just have sex with loads of people they don't actually want anything long-term from, and then aborting all of the babies that are the consequence of that? He says, sex as liberation is only marketed towards women. Yeah, absolutely. That's completely true. Because it's not liberating, and you'd have to be... I'm not going to say that. You don't get the girl anymore, you just get lucky. Yeah, and that's really sad, isn't it? I mean, that's really reflective of the decline of our civilization. That there's no romantic myth for men and women now. Now it's just go out and do whatever you can do, and we'll just murder anything that becomes a problem after that. It's pretty horrible, you know? I mean, like, with the amount of women who consider abortion their most important political topic, I mean, it must mean that, like, a very, very large percentage of American women have had abortions. So, anyway, abortion is power over weak men. It is, but it's not just over weak men, right? It's also over the men that they're having sex with that they don't want to have kids with. It's power over not just life and death, but also the social framework that is built up to compensate and deal with the issues that come with pregnancy. I mean, this is just the destruction of the old world through abortion. Like, why would anyone want to marry a woman who's had sex with lots of guys she didn't want to have kids with and then aborted a bunch of children? Like, that's not a woman of good character. That's not wife material, right? Anyway, Fear of God says, some feminists hate themselves for having a womb. For these people, that organ has become a symbol of oppression. And in a way, this very similar thing. And this is why birth control is, again, such an important thing for left-wing women, and also probably one of the reasons that left-wing women have a huge preponderance of mental health issues. This is not good for them, frankly. It's not making them happy, it's not making them healthy, but it is feeding a kind of drug-like addiction. He carries on. Abortion is the closest thing that they can come to that'll give them the same sexual freedom as a man without artificially altering their womb permanently. I don't agree. I don't think most men have that kind of sexual freedom, frankly. The men have far more restricted sexual freedom than women in the opportunities for partners that the average man has. Men don't have the level of sexual freedom that young women have. Men aren't the ones who can just go out and just make it happen. At least, you know, most average men. I'm sure, like, the very top tier of men who are like ultra giga chad handsome can, but very few men can actually make this kind of thing happen in the same way that the average woman can, right? This is a fairly standard complaint. And so actually this is giving them a privilege that they have over men. So this is them going further than that, I would say. Jack says, why do so much of men's politics revolve around controlling women? Well, that's an easy answer. I don't want babies murdered. Right? I don't want women to just murder babies, because that means hundreds of thousands a year are murdered. And I think that's wrong. I actually don't think it's good that they're chopped up in the womb up until the point of birth. Like, when they're totally viable, they could survive out on their own on like 24 weeks or whatever it is. And, I mean, look at this guy, right? It's like, you think it's right to abort babies that are that far gone? He's like, termination, like 8 months? No. Well, that's what we're fucking talking about, Jack. Right? Because that's what's going to happen in this country. So shut your little cuck mouth and get with the program. Right? This is wrong, And if it comes to men having to control women to prevent this from happening, you're on board with it, you fucking moron. Honestly, these men, man. And then finally we've got Diane saying, women want it to be as easy for them to walk away from an unwanted pregnancy as it always has been for men. Well, that's the thing. It hasn't always been that easy for men, right? Because like it used to be that there was just this huge, I mean, where there haven't been like legal, I mean, right now, you're on the hook for child support forever, right? But there used to also be a massive social stigma. It used to be that you would affect your life by doing this. It's the modern liberal society that says, well, you know, if a man walks away, well, that's the way things are. If a woman gets an abortion, well, that's the way things are. That was their choice, and therefore it was good, and it's good that they have the choice to do everything. It's like, no, he should have been more circumspect. She should have been more circumspect. And if you did something that resulted in something happening, well, then that's your life now. You made a series of choices, and you have to live with those choices, or at least that's what I think that should be the case. And if that means that we have to have a culture that is more conservative and more concerned about courtship and the choices that we make that have effects longer down the road, then that's the kind of culture that we should cultivate, rather than cultivating a culture of permissiveness and, frankly, baby murder. I'm just not for it. I'm just against it. I don't think this is good. And I think that if we've got to this point, then we really are being ruled by evil, aren't we?